Thank you so much. Hey everybody, good afternoon. Buenos tardes. I'll talk about Latin America. Is anybody running a business in Latin America right now? Maybe you raise a hand. Few, not too many. Okay, that's pretty interesting. I've heard, is that for me? Yeah. So I heard there's a lot of interest in going into Latin America, and I could only encourage you to come into Latin America. But before I start, very briefly about myself. So I'm coming from the lending world. I've been in the consumer lending about 14 years. I was one of the first members of IPF Digital. Back then it was MCB Finance. You might know it as a Grade 24 in those countries in here. Or you might have heard Creditea in Spain or Mexico. So it's quite a bit of experience from the very early days of online consumer lending till now, when people call it mostly fintech, which is cool. We started much earlier, like many other probably, than fintech was called fintech. And probably my experience comes from Baltics, Finland, eastern part of Europe, but also an operation in Australia, Sydney, based office, and more recently in Mexico. So we set up a Mexican office in Mexico City for IPF Digital. A lot of interesting journey. I used to be a hippie, now I'm yuppie. Had nothing to do with financial services. I haven't been working in a bank or haven't been studying banking in university. I thought it's a boring thing, but now I'm pretty sure that this is very, very interesting, especially with fintech. A lot of alternative, a lot of chains of old patterns and so forth. And I think it's important, if you look at the slides, to know I'm a huge dreamer. I'm a big dreamer. Something what I talk and something that I see 5 years out there might feel a little loco right now, stupid. But why Latin America? I think the stating obvious, it's a huge market. It's a large territory with over 650 million in population, or in fact, Ibero-America, together with Spain, it's over 700 million. So it's if you look at the globe or if you look at the world map, it's super large territory, which has something very unique. It's largely undeveloped compared to Europe or US in our ways of understanding it. It has very similar language, or well, they speak Spanish, and Brazilians obviously speak Portuguese, but it's pretty close by. It has somewhat a similar cultural background, so the rules are coming from the same place, so it makes it a large territory which kind of understood as a space in the world, very similar, but it's not true. It's very unique country per country. We'll talk about this later. Another very interesting thing is it's so undeveloped in terms of lending. In fact, more than half of those markets, and some markets are different. Again, if you talk about Chile, it's slightly different. But you could argue over half of the population is underserved. So there's no banking or no financial services as we are used to that. There's a lot of room for new people to come in, and turn that came around for a large part of the population. And underserved means not just banking services or credit services. I mean, they literally don't have anything, and that is very clearly a massive opportunity. This is a place in the world where a lot of things can be done, and a lot of the experience what we have in here can be transferred over to Latin America. So what is ASKROBIN? ASKROBIN is a great marketplace. So I took my experience from the lending, being a balance sheet lender, and we've been putting up this, quite unique marketplace proposition to Latin American markets. So we partner up with balance sheet lenders, but we do not just affiliation or lead generation. We do a lot more in there. We believe we can add a lot of value to this chain by actually putting this knowledge into practice for them. So we look into doing a lot of KYC and AML, like Pandora guys. In fact, actually, our model is very close to P2B, just that we don't work with private investors. We actually work with balance sheet lenders, which each of have their own credit strategies and credit positioning for the company. And some of the core points there in the slides is that we believe we need to attack this market by shifting the power to consumers. Banking have been always, throughout history, kind of bankers are driving the market. They tell the rules, they give you the term sheet and so forth. And like we've seen many other industries, now with shared economies, have changed where companies have very successfully put power into the consumer's hands. Take our taxifiers or Ubers, for example, where taxi driver used to be a king and not that much anymore. I think it's clearly a consumer who drives that. And our big mission is to facilitate financial inclusion, to help those guys who are underserved, get them away from informal credits to formal credits. So we partner up with fintech guys, payday lenders, if you'd like, microfinance, large microfinance institutions, which are often a very offline business in our standards. We do that from the customer point of view. Our first exercise is to learn to know our customers. So we always start with a customer. We start with why do they need a credit for, how much they need, what is their situation, to basically profile out the customers. It's built into the chatbot. We have this pretty cool conversations over the chatbot with our customers to collect a lot of knowledge on where they stand, what they actually want. And then we're going to go out and look at the best credit offers for them. So acting as a true customer advocate in this game, helping them to navigate the markets away from informal credit to formal credits. And one of the key thing is, or one of the mantras what we keep repeating in office is know your customer, really know your customer. I'm going to repeat that like many times over those slides, a little stupid way, but this is really, really important. So I hope you can take that point away from those slides. And if we go to Latin America, let's talk a little bit about these markets. They're very, very large markets, obviously, big in population. I think it's very important to understand how largely they're cash economy. I mean, it's cash is king in there. There's barely no digital transaction yet compared to our understanding. So it's happening, it's rapidly evolving, but people use cash. And because they use so much cash, it's lack of visibility in there. So you don't have much data about the people. The credit bureaus exist, but they are poor in terms of distribution of the population. So a lot of people don't have anything in the bureaus and so forth and so forth. And I'm going to jump to these bars in there. It's actually half of the pyramid if you think it's just cut it to take less space. But this is a Mexican example of socio-economic pyramid. So upper class is about 4% of the population. Those are the rich guys. Those are the double A's, triple A's, Carlos Slim, and all the rest of the gang. There is obviously kind of upper middle class people, but what's the key point in there is about or over 60% of the market is emerging middle class and working class people who are largely unserved. So this is our focus area. We want to work with people who are not having too much of the offers in front of them. And now if we talk about this kind of lending reality in there and informal credits, so we started early in the European markets and we were clearly very alternative. So we were outside banking, a bunch of hippies like me come together, start lending operation, which was a lot of fun. And we learned our hard lessons through the recession years in here. In there, the markets are the bottom of the market is driven by basically people call them prestamistas. Prestamista is a kind of a lender or lending guy or somebody who goes to the marketplace or on a street level gives you a cash, gives you 100 pesos, wants to get 200 back. Very, very greedy. With a perfect repayment because they keep your kids if that becomes an issue. So it's a form of mafia, if you'd like. In Colombia, they call it the cota, which is drop by drop. Whatever is the drop of the money or drop of the blood, we don't know, but it's a very touchy business. In fact, it comes mainly from any Colombians in here? I hope not. So it's a great Colombian export to Latin America. Most of that's driven by the Colombian guys. So in Mexico, you might hear they call them Colombians. And then the tanda is a form of kind of money jar, basically. So the group of friends come together, or colleagues, or family. Everybody puts 50 peso in there. One draws, and then the draw goes around. So let's say it's 8 to 10 people. They literally put the cash together. Somebody, typically a lady, will fill the forms or kind of keep the record of that, and then one takes a bigger amount in there, and it goes round and round and round. It's a close circle of people who know one another really well, and that's the way to finance the bigger things in there. And I made this point already, but it's a gigantic offline business. Most of you, I trust, is in online lending space. Either you are a lender or you are affiliate, your affiliate network. Something what you do is to get the customer, learn a digital transaction through from getting a customer to getting a loan, actually. And a lot of that's data driven. So in Latin America, quite typically, large part of the business still today, 2018, end of 2018, soon 2019, is offline business. So people go around with pen and paper, they go knock customer doors and so forth. So it's very, very interesting market. It's loads of opportunities, and people would like to walk away from offline experience. That's very clear. They so much prefer the digital lending, and some of the first really successful cases in there already. If we talk about Mexico, a company called Quesky, looks like have been getting the models right. So it's growing really, really nicely. About 30 plus thousand loans a month, which is big in Mexico. Also, the guys in Colombia called Dinero, they're really successful and so forth. But I'm not going to talk in so details. You can come, because I don't know what's actually interesting for you and what's not. So let's get the questions, answers, or then you can come and grab me. I'm happy to share anything, pretty much. I'll talk more general, and I'll talk more general what, in my opinion, is important for European or Northern European. I'm from Estonia. To bear in mind while going to do a business in Latin America. Latin America is different than Europe. It's very, very, very different. So if you have your colleagues or your colleagues in Spain, for example, telling Latinos are different, trust them, please trust them. They're super different than Estonians. They think differently, they act differently. Everything kind of comes together, but it might take time and might go rounds and so forth. Olga, sorry for my presentation thing. She just experienced a Latino. I behave like Latino to her. And I think it's really important to keep in mind and repeat to yourself, it's the way they are. So things are not strange. It's actually you are the stranger in there. So you need to adapt to the market. And I've seen, sadly, some of the Eastern European cowboys go into the market and then come back. Because they thought that they know how the world works, and they know that their business works, and they know everything, or almost everything. And then they come back and says, look, it didn't work in Mexico. We got beaten up because we ended up in the jungle. So please know your customer, know the ways they operate, the ways they think, the ways your partners think, and so forth. And there's a lot of learning. It doesn't come overnight. It's learned the hard way. And I thought I've been traveling around a lot, and I kind of know, and I'm a fairly humble guy and listening. Well, we're learning every day, and we'll keep learning, and there's probably an inch what we know from the full marathon. I'll give you some fun things in there. So first thing I learned in Mexico is not South America. It's got them in the north, right? So it's funny. It's really funny, because if you talk to the Mexicans, and not perhaps everybody, but you talk to the partners in there, and they talk South America, and there's like, why do you talk about South America? Mexico is North America. Well, look at the map. It's actually true. But the point in this slide is that each country is different, so you can't go in there and think Latin America, oh, Latinos are the same, so you're stereotyping. It's each of the countries different. So if you go to Bogota, In Colombia, people are thinking differently than in Mexico. If you go further out, Buenos Aires, or work with your partners, or talk to your customers in Argentina, well, they are different than Mexicans. So it's not like one thing works for everybody. Going to country to country, they're large countries, they're super large countries. Mexico is, well, they counted 125, they're probably 130 million people, so it's 100 times bigger than Estonia. It's a large market. Brazil even larger. They all have their own mindset and the ways they think and the rules and even the legislation is largely the same. It comes Latino, but there's specific things in each of the country which you need to bear in mind. So please know your customer. I'm stating another obvious thing in there. It's all mobile. It's all mobile, and it's all mobile, and it's all mobile. And I made a few graphs in there. So the bottom one is the web traffic. So I guess you guys are pretty close to the Google world and so forth, so you know how to get the sweetest traffic out from the big wide internet and put that into the lender's palm so they could get happily a deal done with that. So Latin America is mobile. These are the real lines. I needed to take out the numbers because I can't disclose other people's numbers. It's a large scale player in Brazil. These numbers are millions. In both scale, millions more than that. This is the same timeline. So this is how web develops, and this is how mobile develops. And every single day we're talking here, it goes more and more in mobile. And I'll tell you why. So there is the vast majority of this target group, at least I work with, and the upper you go is less of the problem. The bottom of the market is very, very mobile driven because literally, this Android gadget was the first gadget connected to the internet, and they run into subsidies on internet plans. So you go to Oxxo store in Mexico City or 7-Eleven, you're going to buy a prepaid card with unlimited social media traffic, and then the rest of the internet is normally charged like mobile plans. So pretty much the vast majority of the people actually have only mobile gadgets, and they are very social media. And we can see that through Facebook numbers. When, I can't remember, 4 or 5 years ago, Mark Zuckerberg said that we're going to do more internet users. And I think the world was laughing. But today, Facebook's 2.2 billion monthly active users, 1.5 billion is coming from emerging markets. It's not Latin America, it's emerging markets. So in fact, US is not the biggest market for Facebook. It's actually India. Well, that's not a surprise. But what might be surprising, and then Brazil and Mexico are number 4 and 5, large markets. US is number 2 right now. But what might be shocking to you is the next, so developed market for them is number 11, and that's United Kingdom. And please remember, mobile beats desktop. Whatever you do, you build your strategies, you think you're 2, 3, 4, 5 years out. Keep mobile in mind. And I'll tell you why it's important. This is my favorite slide because that's eye-opening for me as well. So I trust there's many people who born in 1985 or later. So this is a screen of the first connected computers. The internet literally wasn't even called internet. There was like VideoNet and Usenet and something really weird. So largely you deal with a terminal window with a green letters running in there. And then 94, 95, something really big happened. So the company called Netscape Navigator came to the ground and made a browser. That was the first browser. And I didn't want to put Google in here because you know so much better about Google than I do. But I used Alta Vista. That was one of the first search engines in there. There was Yahoo and many other people before Google actually came in and took the market away from them. But in 95, this is where most of the people actually started to use internet, and you use it on a desktop, and what you do is you Google things, right? So you want to get a loan, you're going to go prestamos personales or prestamos rápidos or whatever, your personal loans. And you guys mastering all of that. Well, what's important in Latin America is if you look today, then internet users on a mobile phone, either was it 2018 or a few years earlier, but it's been around probably 4 years and then scaling up very, very quickly. And think for a moment, how do you use internet on your mobile phone? So you're not on this terminal user, you're not desktop user either. So how do you use internet on your on your smartphone is actually through the applications. Largely use your social media, your Facebooks, WhatsApps, Messenger. I in fact kept all of the communication there with the event organizers over the Messenger bot, or not bot, but Messenger. It was like, whoa, that's cool. No emails, just conversation. You do your Ubers and Spotifys and Tinders if you like, but this is how they use internet, because smartphone is the first catch that they ever had. They don't really have even desktop in the bottom of the market. It's not common. They don't use it like that. They might have a computer, but the load is in the palm. So it's all about mobile, period. You need to contact. And this is about the data, and well, again, you guys know data a lot better than I do, but from a different perspective to the data is not king. Data is your blood circulation that keeps your organs alive, that actually keeps you alive. And you're going to go there, you're going to have some partnerships in there. Share your data. That's really, really important. Share your data with your partners, and not just, I'm optimizing, I'm like doing all this smart knitting in there, and I'm getting the smartest man in the universe. Share your data, because it's really important for your partners to stay alive, and them to stay alive is important to you stay alive. This is not common in there. We need to change that practice. People are going like, hey, no, I have my secret sauce. It's like, look, it's us together here collaboratively developing that market for a better. Share your data, it keeps you alive. Understand the differences in there, what works, what doesn't work, share that learning. And I think this seminar in here is a really good example to, people come together to share the knowledge. Know your customer. I can't get tired of saying that. So think about the data. Everything is mobile, everything is data driven, and only you knowing that is not helping anybody. So you need to share your data with your partners. You need to educate them, you need to listen them, and you need to adapt. And another really important thing, and this is getting like even more cliche, so it's all about trust. And trust me, it's all about trust. I share you something very intimate in here. So this is a couple of our customers' feedback. Let's start with the guy in there. I like this guy. I like the way he's putting this. So he's saying, interests are really high, but they steal you gently. Isn't that sweet? That's very Latino. So nobody really trusts you. They are very distant from that. They're afraid of everything. They're afraid of scam. They're afraid of people ripping them off. They're afraid of putting their families in danger. All these things. So this type of the feedback is what you get from Latin America, and it's because they don't trust you. They want to see you physically. They want to learn to know you. It's the same in the partnerships. They want to meet you before they're going to sign the papers. They sometimes need to meet them many times before that. I give you one contract with a large institution in there. It's a bank, so you could expect that. But it took us 9 months to get into contract, and we probably met like 5 times or so. So trust is very important. It's important from the consumer point of view. It's important also from a lender's point of view. And trust is, you need to earn the trust. You need to do a lot of hard work to earn your trust from the customers, consumers, and your partners as well. It's because mistrust is earned as well. It's not that they don't trust anybody as a default position. It's because there's a lot of stuff happening in there which is relatively dodgy. And they've learned to mistrust people. People don't trust banks. No, big time no. They are depending on the banks, but they don't trust them. They for sure don't trust prestamistas. And this is my lovely call to action from my slides, as the last slide. As I want to call everybody to kind of work together to make fintech a stuff that they could trust. So thank you very much.
Robin probably will have some questions. Okay. You give the microphone.
Hello, very nice presentation. I have a question about you saying that you collect data with chatbots, and so I'm guessing you sell that data via API. Can you tell a bit how ready are the lenders and lead gens on those markets to actually receive that data and process it correctly?
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't sell. I'm sounding now like Mark Zuckerberg. Well, we don't sell data. No, we don't sell data. We use the data. We use that for our own scoring and matching and all these things. But largely, to answer your question, APIs are very, very early stage. Some of the fintech, yes. Most of the guys would look you like you would have two heads. You know, literally, they talk about it in seminars like that, but in practice, they're very far away. So it's quite different environment. It's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. It's just going to take time.
Thank you.
Ray? Here. My name is Eric. Could you please tell a bit in detail what is doing ASKROBIN and what are some measurements or metrics? How this project is working?
Yeah, so ASKROBIN is a marketplace. It's a credit marketplace where we connect borrowers to the balance sheet lenders. So we don't do any loan underwriting ourselves. We don't create or build our own balance sheet. We work with lending companies in the market. So it's kind of a middleman in there. We're very, very close to Pandora, I think, the guys before me. In that difference, we are not working with private investors. We work with professional balance sheet lenders. And we are trying to build the very diversified credit marketplace for people. For end user, and we are consumer-facing company. We're very clearly consumer-facing company. It works as a credit comparison tool, basically. So we'll look at, first thing is, are you eligible for that? Is that loan for you or not? So we do our match scoring, and then out of those, we give you free offers, which are best in terms and conditions for you. That's what ASKROBIN does.
Automatic artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's super artificial. It's machine learning. We work in algorithm. We don't do anything manually. We do a lot of manual analysis, obviously, in there, but we teach our algorithms, so it's full algorithmic. Yeah, not very intelligent yet. We're about 1 year old, so we're learning. And some of the numbers, I look in at 1 year time. So we've got 1.4 million users on a pod. We've got 72 partnerships across Latin America. Some are big, some are very small. Early days. I throw you some more numbers which might make you to go there. As there are, so I looked at that about 2 years ago, and there was fairly virgin market, so nothing much happening in there. Obviously some companies, but you don't see them. Today it's over 700 fintech companies in Latin America or Ibero-America. Sorry, Latin America without Spain. And there are two large sub-verticals. It's payments and it's lending, both personal lending and SME lending. They are the fastest growing by far. A lot of people I know from the past, a lot of people do a good business or are about to do good business in there from the people we know from these markets. And a lot of local capital, a lot of capital from the US is looking and knocking the doors.
Robin, I know that several Russian microfinance companies are looking into Latin American markets. So if they launch, can you help them with clients?
It's so cool. They call me Robin, yeah? I'm Ryan. Robin is this guy. But no, that's good. That's good. You're not the first one. I like it, actually.
So why Robin then?
Sorry,
can you? Question.
So a lot of companies are looking to go.
Yes, so if I know that many or several microfinance companies with Russian capital, they want to launch, they want to go to Latin America. So if they do, can they get clients through ASKROBIN? Can they join your platform?
Yeah, definitely, yes. We work very closely with our lending partners. And I call them partners because it's all about the data. That's important. We need to share the data to be successful. It's jungle, literally, and you stay alive if you group together. Alone, impossible. Yes, very welcome. Happy to talk.
And why ask Robin then? Robin, I think it's not Latin American name.
No, it's not. But our ambition is a bit broader than Latin America. It's just that Latin America was the first territory we want to go. We'll also see that as a global opportunity in emerging markets. So we're very interested to look at Africa. We're actually doing a research right now in certain African countries. And we will look into Southeast Asia as well. Don't ask what countries, because I don't know anything about it yet. We're going to go to research and going to get there. But on a macro level, I believe these are the largest territories outside India, which is difficult to do business, and probably mainland China, which is very difficult to do business.
Thank you. Any more questions? Okay.
Can you please tell us the process that the prestamistas are doing? You said that they are buying, each other is buying one loan from one to another and paying a higher price, or what?
Prestamistas,
Yeah.
the process is this. On loan, this is the process. So you got like loan sharks, basically. There's a lot of informal lending. There's a lot of guys who are, the tanda is a very interesting thing, this cultural and traditional thing. So people put money together, and then one takes the, you put 50 pesos, there's 10 guys, and then once you can get your 500 or 450 actually. And this is the way you operate. So prestamistas go around with similar tandas, and you put money in there, and then you take out the loan with interest. But they also would give you a loan in the street, like you want 500 pesos in Mexico, or anything like that. You get this, and then they want to get it back. Very typically also kind of micro enterprise level. So if you're selling your stuff on a marketplace, prestamistas around you to finance your operation, and then they know how to find you if you don't pay.
And what's the maximum interest fee in Latin America allowed?
Oh, it's very different.
By legislation.
Yeah, so Mexico, in my knowledge, doesn't have a cap. There are some usury the case that the judge would say this is a usury. Fintech goes pretty wild in there, so Europe is capped, and there it's not. Colombia has 34% APR cap, but there are ways to go around. So not all fintech is actually under 34. A classical microfinance, the pen and paper boys, they're all over the 34 as well. I trust many countries have the limits in there, but it's is there, but it's not really there. So it doesn't stop you operating. They start to look at more seriously, but I think it takes a lot of time. So in Europe, pretty much in every country, there's fire for these guys with high interest. Probably, Poland, P question mark, Spain is coming on its go. You can hear Spain is coming so loud that it's like conquistadors. Politics out, Latvia, about it. Finland started. So this whole trend is going there as well, obviously, but it's going to take a little bit more time because the issues they have are bigger than the high interest rate.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you.